إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Firstly, all praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we praise Him and we seek His help and His forgiveness alone. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evil within our own selves and from the evil of our own actions. Whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, there is no one that can misguide. And whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves to be misguided, there is no one that can guide again back to the straight path. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped, to be followed and obeyed except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the servant of Allah and his last and final prophet and messenger. Amma ba'd. First and foremost, obviously, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering. Inshallah, make it one surrounded by those blessed angels, inshallah, making dua for us, asking forgiveness for us. Inshallah, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a gathering. It is a beneficial reminder for us. It's something for us to contemplate over our own selves and our own actions. The topic today, my dear Muslim, is Hiqd. It is about the grudges. Hiqd is when someone, he develops in his heart a grudge against his Muslim brother. And this Hiqd is a defection in the Islamic personality. And it is prohibited in Islam, and every Muslim should be free from it. So obviously, my dear Muslim, obviously it's something straight away, something dispraised to have this grudges against other Muslims. And Hiqd has a linguistic meaning, and it also has a Sharia meaning. I'm sure many of you have heard over in the previous talks and stuff, we talked about certain words that have linguistic meaning. So linguistically they mean certain things, but in the Sharia they have a different meaning. So inshallah, first and foremost, we'll look at the linguistic meaning of the word Hiqd. Yeah, and you'll see from that how the Sharia definition is derived. So Hiqd linguistically meaning Hiqd is al-ihtibas al-mani'. Yeah, anything that is suppressed and prevented from coming out. So i.e., like as an example, like when someone has a spot and it becomes swollen and it becomes painful because something is preventing it from coming out. And once it is released, it has relief. Yeah? So that is an example of Hiqd. Yeah? So something that is suppressed and preventing from coming out. So from the linguistic meaning, al-ihtibas al-mani'. It is also used in regards to rain. Like when you have dark clouds, for example, gathering. And when it does not rain, we say that it has al-hiqd. It has a grudge, it's not coming out. Yeah. Also linguistically, the word al-hiqd also comes from the word al-daghn. Yeah. It means when you go away from the right path and away from justice. Then that is called al-daghina. Yeah. And it is also when you oppress somebody. If you have daghina, you will pick on someone and oppress him and always do injustice to him. Also linguistically, the word al-hiqd comes from al-waghr. Al-waghru is when someone is burning from inside with anger. And this is another form of al-hiqd. Al-waghr composes of al-daghn, yeah, as we mentioned before. Animosity and anger, as well as full of anger in the heart. And all this is a form of al-hiqd. i.e. that is a build-up of in the heart. It's a build-up in the heart, and it never comes out except a little. And it is obvious that the problem and the defection of the person carrying this disease. Also, linguistically, is from the word al-dua, or al-dawa and al-dua are usually used for the one who has sickness in the heart, and the man who suffers from a particular problem in the chest, in that he feels pressure in his chest, or he feels pain in his chest. So we say he has al-dua. Al-dua is an internal sickness and composes of all the elements of the grudge until he becomes ill. So when he sees that the person, he has a grudge against someone or somebody, he cannot breathe and he cannot do anything except to oppress him. So when a person has this illness, he is struck with it until he takes the medicine, and the cure of the grudge for him is to retaliate. So the one who has no power or authority to retaliate, he will build up this greater grudge even more and more until he has the power, and then he will retaliate. So you can see just from some of these linguistics, it's like this pressure building up inside. You see, of the one who has the grudge, and obviously the frustration where he can't release it, and the only thing is like that will relieve him is to release that hatred or that animosity is building up inside. And that's why the analogy obviously is given similar to like the spot. Like if you ever have that spot right on the tip of your nose, until you burst it out, and get the food, you always want to itch it and burst it. So a bit similar like this. Also linguistically, from the word al-ghil. Al-ghil is intentionally to cheat a particular out of hatred or anger without to show him. And there's a verse here used to support this, Surah Al-A'raf, verse number 43, where it says, and we shall remove from their breasts, i.e. from their chests, any hatred. And the word used in this verse is ghil. We should remove from their chest any hatred or sense of injury. And rivers flowing underneath them, and they will say, all praises and thanks to be to Allah who has guided us to this, and never could we have found guidance were it not for Allah, and were it not for the fact that Allah had guided us. Indeed, the messenger of our Lord came with the truth, and it will be cried out to them, this is the paradise which you inherited for what you used to do. Yeah. So these are some of the linguistic meaning from how the word al-Hiqd is derived from. So in the Sharia meaning of the word al-Hiqd, it is known as al-Hiqd is holding back animosity and hatred in the chest because of a failure to retaliate immediately. So that is the definition of al-Hiqd. It is the holding back animosity and hatred in the chest because of a failure to retaliate immediately. And obviously, my dear brothers, this is one of the diseases of the heart, one of the many diseases that the heart can suffer from. And we ask obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us safe from this disease and all of the diseases of the heart. And we should obviously, like the way we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the good health. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to good health. We also make dua to Allah to give us a good heart. And not just the physical illness that maybe someone's heart can face, but the ones where the diseases can affect it, of like the hiqd, of like the envy and the jealousy, and the hatred for the believers, for example. And al-hiqd is one of the most dangerous diseases, my dear Muslims. The one who has al-hiqd in his heart, you will find that whenever he has authority, he will express his grudge in any form. and in any way. He has an urge to take revenge in his heart. And whenever he has the possibility, whenever he has the right time, the opportunity and power, he will take revenge. Because it is in his heart, and it does not always become apparent until that time. So someone, he builds up this animosity and hatred maybe towards someone, but because he can't retaliate immediately or maybe take revenge, that grudge is building up inside him. Like the pressure is building up until he obviously releases that grudge. He maybe he releases in the way he maybe end up swearing at the person, maybe end up release away and end up hitting someone, maybe ends up hitting something because of that frustration of his own grudge. So the function of the heart is Iman, and it has a function to have conviction. That is a sound test. Press 1 if you can hear me, inshallah. Somebody's saying they can't hear sound. Bismillah, mic test, 1, 2, 3. Can everyone hear sound? Okay, Jazakallah khair. So we said the function of the heart is Iman, and it is a function to have conviction, to believe and trust and have yaqeen, and to have tranquility and sukoon. However, if you have a disease in your heart, you begin to hold a grudge and doubt everything against the person, and you think badly of him. Imam Ghazali, he said, Al-Hiqd is when the heart cannot swallow somebody. When the heart cannot, tolerate somebody. That is a sign of somebody who has grudges. You feel in your heart, because of that grudge, you feel in your heart becomes heavy, and you feel fed up and frustrated. And if a person maintains a grudge against someone, and then that someone always suppresses him, then that disease will become contagious. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ advised to have hitab, i.e. to say, "Oh brother, why did you do so and so?" Or to say, "I wish you did not say so and so." And this is the best form of caring and polite advice. So obviously, maybe sometimes your brother says something that upsets you a bit. If he does wrong, not to respond to him with the wrong. Rather, obviously, advise him in the best manner with the itab. Say, bro, address him, "Oh, my brother, that upset me. It'd be better if you did not say that." You see, rather than coming with this harsh angle, "How dare you say that to me? Who are you to say that to me? Fear Allah. You're always saying, bad things." Rather to approach him in the best manner, so that he can take the advice and not become like defensive, like he feels like he's being attacked. And the Shaykh, he mentioned some of the forms of Al-Hiqd. The first one the Shaykh, he mentioned, is when someone distorts the image of the ulama, the du'at and the mujahideen. Either because he is jealous of their respect, their strength, or for example, he is jealous that people make dua for certain ulama and mujahideen instead of him. And thus the grudge it manifests in defaming those people, distorting their image of those people. Usually those people, those ulama, du'at and mujahideen, they never hold diseases themselves. And that is because they are not hiding the foundations of that disease, and they are not worried about that sort of thing as well. So you see, subhanallah, many people, they'll hold grudges against those sincere du'at, those scholars, mujahideen. Sometimes people show so much, Muslims I'm talking about, show so much hatred towards them. Yet those mujahideen, those sincere ulama, they respond to their brothers in the best manner. They do not retaliate with grudges and hatred. Rather, they approach him with open arms in terms of forgiveness, in terms of they're willing to overlook their faults, even if their brother has wronged them, for the sake of Allah. That's why sometimes, like today, my dear Muslim, with the establishment of the Khilafah, for some people, for many decades, they've been working to establish the Khilafah, and striving hard to establish it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe He never gave it to them. Maybe because their aqidah was wrong. Maybe because their manhaj was corrupt. So Allah maybe never gave it to them, but gave it to someone else. And you see, my dear Muslims, that grudges start building up. I worked for it all this time. How can it go to someone else? Subhanallah. Some people, they may have been engaged in the jihad fi sabilillah for many decades, working also to remove the oppression, remove the oppressive regime, to make way for the Khilafah, to make way for the implementation of Islam. And then when the Khilafah is established, and it's not from among them, they feel this grudge building up, that I worked tirelessly for all these years. How could it have gone to someone else? My dear Muslims, when the Sahaba, they were in Mecca, and they were the ones that they suffered along with the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca for 13 years, and they supported him. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established Darul Islam in Medina, the Muhajirin, those who migrated from Mecca, they never held any grudge against the Ansar. And neither did the Ansar, they feel any jealousy towards the Muhajirin. Some people today, similar to the Ansar, they welcome the Muhajirin and the Mujahideen, and they welcome for the Sharia to be implemented over them. And at the same time today, you have some people like Abdullah bin Ubay, the Munafiq. He developed this hatred for the Muhajirin and the Ansar, because if it wasn't for them, he would have been the leader in Yathrib. You see, and that is why, because the authority was given to the Prophet ﷺ, he started building up this grudge and enmity and hatred. And obviously he pretended to become Muslim, yet secretly he hated Islam, and he wanted to see its downfall. In the same way, my dear Muslims, you have some people today, they say Syria is for the Syrians, and they see their brothers who have come to fight with them against the Taghut, they see them as foreign invaders. And this is another disease of the heart, the disease of the nationalism, to have hatred or to look down upon your brother because he's from a different part of the world, because he has a different flag. Obviously, why the disease of nationalism is such a filthy disease? It's because it creates division amongst the Muslims. And my dear brothers, you see that today in Sham. You see the disease. We see, like in society here where we live, someone, I don't know, he might not give his daughter in marriage to someone because he's not from the same country. But in the jihad fi sabilillah, if someone has this disease of nationalism, his own brothers who may have traveled far to come and help, he may turn them away. Because why? Because you're not Syrian. You're not Syrian. This is not your problem. This is not your issue. If the Muslims came from all parts of the world to help our brothers who are suffering in Palestine, are they going to turn us away because we're not from that piece of land? Obviously, my dear Muslims, the one who understands that the Ummah is one, that understands that nationalism is something forbidden in Islam, he would not do so. And this is why obviously we need to root this disease out of our hearts. And some people today, they have this selfish mentality. That's all about me and my Jama'ah. and we are the ummah. And we are the ummah. If we Muslims, if some Muslim they achieve something good, it is goodness for us and honor for us all, my dear Muslim. If we have this mentality that we are an ummah, if our brothers somewhere they achieve something great, this is honor for us all. This is honor for the whole ummah. This is goodness for the whole ummah. Even those our own brothers somewhere else may achieve something good. And I give you the example, like in someone's family, it may be someone's become a doctor, he's qualified as a doctor. Do you not see that the parents, they have this honor? Because if their son becomes a doctor, it's honor for the whole family. They see it's honor for the parent, it's honor for the siblings. Say, my brother is a doctor, subhanAllah, it's honor for the whole family. But the sibling, he should not obviously be envious, and he should not be jealous. Rather, for him it is honor and it is praise. And rather he should say, Alhamdulillah, my brother or my sister has become a doctor, and it is honor for me. So my dear Muslim, if we claim to be an ummah, we need to behave like an ummah. And if our brothers are suffering in one part of the world, we should not turn around and look at it and say, it's nothing to do with me. It is nothing to do with me. If our brothers come from one part of the world to help us, we should not turn them away and say, this is not your problem. Because of this selfishness, this jealousy and grudge, the suffering of this ummah is prolonged even more so. And sometimes, my dear Muslims, when you explain to people from the Quran or Sunnah, somehow it doesn't sink into people's head. And sometimes you need to give the analogy to help them understand. And if you bear with me, inshallah, I will give you this analogy, and inshallah you'll be able to understand exactly what I mean. Like the analogy of the man, football match. We all know, familiar with football. Like, let's say the man, he takes the ball from his own goalkeeper, the defender, and he tackles through everyone. From his own area, he tackles through all of the players of the other team until he reaches the front of the goal from the other team. But then he delays shooting. He delays taking the shot. He has a chance to score, but then he loses the ball. But what happens then? His brother, he picks up the ball from his own teammate, and he takes the shot and he scores the goal, and the team, they win the match. Rather than hugging his brother and celebrating their victory, he is not overjoyed at the team's victory. Instead, he is upset with his own brother for not passing the ball back to him so that he could score, because he did most of the hard work. He dribbled the ball all the way from his own area, all the way to the front of the goal of the other team. And subhanAllah, at the last moment, his brother or his teammate scores the goal. This ummah, my dear Muslim, has achieved victory, or his team has achieved victory, but he's still upset. He's carrying a grudge. Rather, what he should have done is let that grudge melt away for the sake of Allah. But because of this grudge, he is now trying to bring down his own brother and see his destruction. And he will only destroy himself, and will have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment for his grudges that he never let go against his own Muslim brother. Subhanallah. My dear Muslim, just imagine that scenario for one moment, like we're all playing in a match. Imagine you are that player, you dribble the ball all the way past those 10 players of the other team, and you're in front of the goal now. But let's say you lose the ball. You had the opportunity, you had many opportunities to take the shot, but you didn't. You delayed. It was there for you, and you lost the ball. But instead, your brother come along and he scored. But it was this victory for everyone. but because he did most of the hard work, now he feels like the carpet has been taken from underneath his own foot. But obviously he shouldn't have seen it like this. He should have celebrated the victory. That is the victory for the whole team. We still won the match. Subhanallah. And there is a reason obviously why I gave this analogy, my dear Muslim, for those who understand. And another evil disease obviously of the heart is the jealousy and the envy. Sometimes people love them and respect them. Yeah? So sometimes people may look upon the ulama and the mujahideen and the du'at and see that people they love and respect them, and maybe even respect their scholars. And some people they look upon and they see, but why don't they respect my scholars? Why don't they respect the scholars that I follow and I love? And maybe obviously the scholars need to get off the lap of the Taghut. And maybe then they need to show us that they reject Taghut. And maybe they need to speak for the Ummah. Maybe they need to speak up against those enemies who have gathered against the Ummah. And maybe then they can earn the respect. Sometimes people they get jealous and envious of the dua because they don't have the courage to come out openly and publicly and proclaim Islam and speak the word of truth in front of the Taghut. And instead of saying Alhamdulillah, those brothers are doing a good job and may Allah accept it from them and may Allah keep them steadfast, what do? They turn around and say, this is not hikmah. This is not wise to come out and proclaim Islam like this. It's not wise to come out and account the Taghut and their crimes. And they say stuff like they are bringing harm to the Muslim. And they say now is the time. It's not time for this. Now is the time to concentrate on ourselves. Concentrate on our tajweed. Concentrate on our own family. And that is the envy, my dear Muslim. They envy those people who do not fear Allah, anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do not fear the blame of the blamers. And they see that people, because of that, people give them the respect and honor they deserve. And because that respect and honor is not being directed towards them, this grudge starts building up. Another form of al-Hiqd, of grudges, is, the Shaykh mentioned, picking and magnifying the mistakes and errors even after the person has repented from it. Out of this grudge, he will betray and pick on things from years ago, even if he made tawbah for his mistake. So like for example, maybe a brother, he did something wrong against you. So he turns around and says, Subhanallah, well, what about you? What about last year when you did this and this to me? They said, brother, but you forgave me for that. And we forgot about it. But he's been holding on to it. And he brings back those mistakes, even though the person has repented from it. And this especially obviously happens sometimes when you advise someone. When you advise someone, you say, look brother, this is not allowed. And he'll remind you of a time when you did something wrong. To say, what about you when you did something wrong? And that's why they have a saying here in the West, that two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah? Two wrongs don't make a right. And sometimes this especially happens, my dear Muslims, when you advise family members who may not be practicing correctly. So maybe in your own jahiliyyah, you used to do something, something that was not correct, something sinful. And when you advise your own family member, maybe you advise your own sister or something to cover up, for example. They might say maybe for one sister advise another sister. They say, what about you? You at one point you didn't used to cover up. Subhanallah. And they will come from that angle. And there's a few verses here I would like to just quickly share, inshallah, from Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verses 16 to 20. And it mentions a little incident between Fir'aun and Musa alayhi salam and Harun. And it starts to say, Fir'aun, he said, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, and when you both come to Fir'aun, say, we are the messengers of the Lord of the Alameen. So allow the children of Israel to go with us. And Fir'aun, he said to Musa alayhi salam, did we not bring you up as a child and you did dwell many years of your life with us? SubhanAllah. Did you not get child benefit for many years and we gave you housing benefit? And now you condemn our democracy, you criticize our queen. That's not what Fir'aun said, but he said, did we not bring you up amongst us as a child, obviously grow up in the house of Fir'aun, and did you not dwell for many years of your life with us? And you did your deed which you did. Remember the incident when Musa alayhi salam, he accidentally killed a man. Fir'aun is reminding Musa alayhi salam, did you, and you did your deed which you did, and you were one of the ingrates. So Fir'aun is reminding of the mistake that he made. And Musa alayhi salam, he said, I did it then when I was an ignorant, when I was obviously before obviously the revelation, etc. So that's one of the natures. You see this, the people, they will remind you of your own mistakes of your past, which have long been forgotten about. Subhanallah. That is because they're still carrying those grudges. They haven't let it go. And the Shaykh also mentioned that when you give salam to your Muslim brother, it is an abrogation that all that's happened between you and him in the past. Yeah? So if somebody has a grudge against his Muslim brother and he sees him and he says Assalamu alaikum, that means he has forgotten all about it, and he doesn't have no issue with him. He doesn't have no grudges against him. Right? That should have it be seen. But today people, you may have come, they'll give the salam, but at the same time they're holding something against them. They're holding something against them. You know, so it's almost like, you know, it's not, I give you salam, but I still remember what you did. So it's almost like it's that salam is not quite real, but there's some defection in it. So obviously when you give the salam, my dear Muslim, it's like an abrogation for all that's happened between you and that brother in the past. And there can be no war left between you, between yourselves after you give each other salam. Only peace between you both. More than that, it will spread. He will spread it among all the people. E.g., someone may have had a mistake in the past, and after that he repents publicly, and he changes all of his actions accordingly. But after that, the one who holds a grudge with him will maintain picking on his mistakes, and he will magnify it, and he will spread it despite the person's repentance. So obviously, my dear brothers, if somebody has done something wrong, a mistake, a sin, and he has, you know, asked forgiveness for it, and the person has maybe forgiven him, that's why we say, you know, forgive and forget. That means that's it. It's as if it never happened, my dear Muslim. That's how it needs to be. That's how it needs to be looked upon. See, that's why I say when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives someone, it is almost like as if the person never done that sin ever. It is completely removed, my dear Muslim. When we forgive and we overlook the faults of our brothers and sisters, it's not that, okay, I forgive you, but it's still holding on to it in the heart. You still, from your mouth you have let it go, but from your heart you have not let it go. And that's why, my dear Muslim, when we forgive our brothers and sisters, we must forgive sincerely from the heart, and we must hold nothing against them after that. We must not ever bring that up again. It needs to be a complete, like a new slate with our Muslim brother. And the Shaykh, he mentioned one example. He said, Sayyid Qutb rahimullah, he used to be Ash'ari, in Aqidah on many issues, but he, in his last few works, he repented and he admitted that he was wrong. Yet some people continue to pick in his old faults in order to discredit him completely. So subhanAllah, someone he might have some mistakes and some deviancy in his Aqidah in the past, but he's openly repented and he openly corrected his mistakes and said, look, on this and this matter I was wrong. So rather than accepting that, the person who's still holding a grudge, he'll say, oh, but one day, he used to be such and such before. How can we trust him now? When at one point he used to be like this and that. At one point when he used to do such and such sin. How can we think? That means you never really overlooked that person's faults. You never really forgave him. You've been holding on to it. And that is a sign of someone who has grudges against a person, when he will pick on the faults of someone and his previous mistakes. Another form of al-Hiqd is interpretation of everything as a conspiracy. This is what the Shaykh mentioned, point number 3. He said those whom people will be envious of and hold grudges against them, the most will always be the Anbiya, and after them the ulama. And this is why we hear people always ask and question why they have not been attacked. Why have they not been arrested? He must be an agent. We hear that a lot. Why haven't the police arrested so and so? Why haven't the police arrested Anjem Chowdhury? He must be an agent. That's what they used to say. But when he gets arrested, there was silence. SubhanAllah. So maybe why don't you come out and say, I was wrong. I was wrong to say that. Obviously that's not a condition anyway to say that someone's a person of haqq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the protector of the believers. Maybe someone is going in and out of prison. Allah is testing him. Maybe someone else who can't handle that test of prison. You see, but it's not indication that someone hasn't been arrested, someone hasn't been put on death row, that only if they have been arrested, only if they have been raided and they've been to prison, that they're a person of haqq. My dear Muslims. And some people who say such thing, it's almost like they want their brother to be arrested by the kuffar. Subhanallah. And even that, my dear Muslims, even after someone, maybe they say, look, how can this person is a agent, he never gets arrested. But when they do get arrested, there's some people, they're so corrupt in their understanding, they say, look, it's a conspiracy. Really, they've taken him in prison, but somewhere in the prison he's just, nice, he's living a nice luxury, lifestyle. He's got it's like as if in his own living room, and people are bringing him all these nice gifts and takeaway food, just keeping him there for a few months to make it look like really he's not an agent, but actually he is. So there's even there, my dear Muslim, you see, they still won't let it go. There's some people that have so much conspiracy theory in their minds. And really what it is, the reason why they're like this is because they have a grudge against that person. And subhanAllah, those people who look upon those sincere du'at and they accuse them of being spies and being agents. When you look upon those people who are making those claims, the ajib thing is, we can see more reasons to doubt you. You never speak against the Taghut. You never speak against the crimes of the Taghut. You take maybe funding from the Taghut. And you do not speak up for the Muslim in their defense. And the one who speaks up in the defense of the Muslim, who speaks up for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speaks against the Taghut and the crimes against the Muslim, you say he's the agent. How does that make sense? And sometimes, even my dear Muslim, innocently, you may see your sheikh suddenly dress smartly, even for his lecture, and then begin to doubt him that maybe he's become vain. This is what the sheikh has noted. However, you may know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, dazzle yourself in every majlis and in every salah. And that is why Imam Shafi'i, in every majlis, he tried to change his appearance, and he used to have only 3 khamis, and he used to interchange between them in order to make it look like he had more. And when they asked him why he did that, he said, because the Prophet ﷺ said to change your clothes for every majlis. So this is what the sheikh has noted. So sometimes you might have the sheikh, you might have the speaker, you might see the dress nice, yeah? And you might think, this person, look, he's just showing off, he just come dressed nice to show off, subhanallah. But obviously it's from the sunnah to dress nice, to put on your best clothes and come to the masjid, etc. If you're going to a gathering, like when you go to a walima or something, you put on your best clothes, you want to look nice. Obviously that is something that is good, my dear Muslim. So the ignorance, it will cause you to doubt someone in an issue when perhaps it may even be from the sunnah, but you do not know. And you may assume that someone is showing off if he wears some handsome clothes deliberately, whereas he could be following the sunnah. And Imam Shafi'i said, if you are not like them, imitate them. Yeah? If you are not like them, imitate them. And he said, you are not like the Prophet, so imitate him. And maybe Allah will change your personality accordingly. The way the kuffar become like the pop stars when they imitate them. So you see, subhanAllah, they want to be like those pop stars and rap stars, but they can't be like them, but they try their best to imitate them. And if you are not like the Sahaba, then imitate them. And if you're not an alim, then imitate your shaykh. So obviously, my dear Muslim, try your best to be like the Anbiya, to be like the Sahaba. Try your best to imitate them in the goodness. And this grudge, my dear Muslim, is a disease between Muslims. That if a kafir has a grudge against you, it does not matter. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that they will never be pleased with whatever that you do. Obviously, if some kafir that has some grudge against you, don't lose any sleep over it. Because the kuffar, they will never be pleased with you, my dear Muslim. Now some people, they have this illness that, oh look, kuffar don't like me. As if, subhanAllah, you want them to love you? David Cameron hates my guts. Alhamdulillah, that's good. That's a good position. If David Cameron loves you and is inviting for iftar at 10 Downing Street, there's something seriously wrong. Yeah. If David Cameron thinks you are the ideal Muslim, you are, we want more Muslims like you in the UK. You are conducive to the public good. Then, my dear Muslim, that is a dangerous position to be in, and most likely you have deviated from the teachings of Islam. Because in reality, the Taghut should never be pleased with you. The Taghut will never accept you, my dear Muslim. And just as the Taghut at the time of the Anbiya, they never accepted them. Just at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he came out with his Islam, it was not accepted, and it was approached with animosity and hatred and rejection. Another form of al-Hiqd that the Shaykh mentioned is belittling those who disagree with you. If someone praises the one that you have a grudge against, you will belittle them, and one day you hold a grudge against each other. If this grudge is never expressed, he will become ill from it, and he may even die from it. SubhanAllah. And he will belittle and defame anyone who disagrees with him with regards to his hatred for that person. That is because he is trying to create public opinion against him, and those people are in his way. So another, you see, when someone has a grudge, you'll see they start to belittle that person they have a grudge against. So maybe they might even belittle the way they speak. They start belittling the way they speak. They might even belittle their physical appearance. They might even start, giving them bad nicknames. They might even, they say stuff, maybe about his belly, subhanallah. Because they have this issue with them, and they feel they can't let it out. And you see it'll manifest in that belittle, in defaming them. And obviously, my dear Muslim, see the danger of this disease. It will be like this burning fire inside you. If you hold on to these grudges against your Muslim brothers and sisters, that it will start consuming you, and it will start damaging you. Another form of al-hiqd the Shaykh mentioned is preventing the support for the jihad verbally, physically and financially. He will have a grudge against jihad, and he will condemn everything in order to attack it, even to condemn the Quran and Sunnah and the ulama. And there's a verse here, it's mentioned in Surah Muhammad, verses 35 to 37. And do not feel down, and do call for peace. You are the highest, if you are believers. And Allah is with you, and the dunya is an amusement and play. But if you believe in Allah and follow His commands, He will give you all the rewards, and He will never prevent you from your rights. And if He asks you to go to jihad, you become stingy and show all your grudges against it. We call you to spend for jihad, some of you become stingy. And he is only stingy for himself. And Allah does not need you, and you are poor. And if you turn back, He will replace you with people that are better than you. SubhanAllah. That's Surah Muhammad verses 35 to 37. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that if you leave the da'wah and the jihad, you will never improve, but you will become worse. And Allah will replace you with people, even from those who were worse than you before. And then they will become far better than you. So SubhanAllah, my dear Muslim, obviously if you do not strive in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of any of us, my dear Muslim. If we can't be bothered, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring people who can be bothered. If we can't exert ourselves to give victory to the deen of Islam, other people who may be sitting back, not concerned about anything, Allah will guide them and make His deen prevail through them. So my dear Muslims, this is very dangerous. We've seen over the years many people may be busy in the da'wah, and what happened? They've fallen off the wagon. They started taking a step back, my dear Muslim. Many people may be involved in the jihad, but then they become busy with the dunya. Maybe they even started condemning the da'wah and the jihad. And as a result, they've sunken deeper and deeper, and they've rolled back into the jahiliyyah. And my dear Muslim, Allah, like I said, you are in need of the da'wah. You are in need of the jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of you. If you exert yourself and you strive in His cause, it's for your own good, and the reward is with you. But if you are not interested, and if you cannot be bothered, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will just bring about other people. It's substitution, my dear Muslim. I give the analogy again, going back to the football. You have that striker. You see, every time the ball is given to him, he can't be bothered to run for it. He's got the ball, but he doesn't shoot. You know, he looks like he's walking around lazy. What's the manager going to do? Substitution, get off. Let me put on another striker who looks like he wants to win the game. If the manager sees you can't be bothered to run for the ball, you don't really look like you want to win the game, maybe he's going to substitute you and replace you with someone else. So my dear Muslims, we must be very careful of being substituted like that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it could happen, my dear Muslims. We've seen over the years many people substituted in the da'wah, substituted in the jihad. Imam Muwardi, he said in the tafsir of the ayah, he said, Ifa is either that he will punish you because you become stingy, or second, you will start to question and ask a lot for the sake of not to go, showing what you have been hiding for years, and at the same time you become stingy out of hatred for the believers. In this case, the grudge targets the ulama, mujahideen, and the people of iman and taqwa. And that is the most dangerous disease that the Prophet ﷺ used to make dua. There's a dua here he mentioned, O Allah, purify my heart from the grudges towards the believers. O Allah, purify my heart from the grudge to the believers. But then Muslim, we should not be holding grudges towards our Muslim brothers and sisters. Some people, subhanAllah, have been holding grudges not for a few days, for years, for decades. Sometimes siblings been holding grudges against their own siblings for many, many years, my dear Muslim. If somebody, maybe our brother or our sister, has done something wrong, we should immediately try to resolve it and bury it. Forgive and forget, my dear Muslim, like you say. Forgive and forget. Not to like, yeah, okay, I forgive you, but I forgive but not forget. I'm going to hold on to it, subhanAllah. This is not the true forgiveness for your Muslim brother. Also, the dua of the Sahaba mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hashr, verses 9 to 10. And those whom before them had homes, i.e. in Medina, and had adopted the faith, love those who emigrated to them, and they have no jealousy in their breasts, i.e. in their chest, yeah? And this is in reference to the booty from Bani Nazir. So they have no jealousy in their breast, in their chest, and give them preference over themselves. So it's talking about the Ansar and the Muhajirin. And they give preference to them over themselves, even though they were in need of that. And whomsoever is saved from his own covetousness, i.e. Covetousness, you know, like when you hold on to something, you don't want to let it go. That's when you covet. Such are they who will be successful. And those who came after them said, O Allah, forgive us and our brothers who believed before us, and make not for us any grudge for the believers. Our Lord, you are indeed full of kindness, the most merciful. Ibn Kathir says about this ayah in Surah Al-Hashr, verse 9 to 10, that they are Al-Muhajirun and the Ansar, and those who followed them on the right path. They are the ones who deserve the share of the booty. So you see, subhanAllah, when the Muslims, they came from Mecca and they made the hijrah to at that time was known as Yathrib, but became Medina. Those Ansar from the Aus and Khazraj that supported them, the way that they, subhanAllah, they supported their brothers who came to them, this is a lesson for us. You know, one narration, it mentions how one of the Ansar, he even offered, he had two wives, he offered, I'll divorce one of them and give them to you, subhanAllah, and give half of my wealth. Those Ansar, they never had any grudge against those Muhajirin that came to them, subhanAllah, and rather they preferred their own possession for their own brothers than their own self. This is subhanAllah, so absolutely no grudge, no animosity, hatred. Who are these people coming here? Coming to coming to our land. SubhanAllah, they had no hatred from them, rather they welcomed them with open arms, and they did not feel any resentment towards them. And that is why Imam Malik he said the one who insults the Sahaba does not deserve any booty, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and then he quoted that verse, Surah Al-Hasr, verse number 9. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us that the people of Jannah are those whose hearts are free from grudges, and you cannot have a grudge against each other and claim that you will all go to Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we shall remove what is in their hearts from the hatred, the ghil, with rivers flowing underneath them. The meaning of removing the grudge from the heart is for the people of Hawa and Bid'ah, who hold grudges. Imam Mawardi and Ibn Kathir said that the people of grudges are four: the people of Hawa and Bid'ah, those who have a sickness in the heart, envious and hateful of the believers. They do not know who to hate, and instead to hate for the sake of Allah. The kuffar and the mushrikeen, who will hate the believers, and those who exert utmost effort for the sake of Allah, and those who have a grudge, and those who are selfish. Those are the four. Some of the notes he mentioned here now, the Shaykh he mentioned about the Sahaba regarding Al-Hiqd. The Sahaba, once they were sitting together and talking regarding the sayings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon that verse that Allah will remove the grudges from their heart. Ali ibn Abu Talib, he said, this is the grudges of Jahiliyyah. The grudges of Jahiliyyah. So, my dear Muslim, maybe two Muslims, maybe they embrace Islam, and maybe they had some issue in Jahiliyyah with each other. But what the Islam, what the Shahada is supposed to do, my dear Muslim, is supposed to completely wipe that away. Meaning what? Whatever happened between us in Jahiliyyah, it's all forgotten about. It's as if it never existed, my dear Muslim. We do not hold on to these things. This is how the attitude needs to be. And this goes on to say, and this is because they used to have a dispute in the past before Islam, and now had abrogated and left all the grudges from before, like Allah removed the grudges between the Aus and the Khazraj, who used to fight and wage war against each other in the time of Jahiliyyah. Yeah, so subhanAllah, the Aus and Khazraj, for many decades, they used to constantly fight against each other, and people could never see them uniting. But the Iman, Islam made them brothers. And obviously whatever happened between them in the past, my dear Muslim, that's now, there's a saying here in the West, they say it's water under the bridge. Yeah, meaning it's all forgotten about. Whatever happened between us in the past, before Islam, we've forgotten about that, and we don't bring it up. And that's why the incident, if you remember, when one person tried to arouse that hatred between the Aus and Khazraj, almost to the point they started remembering their Jahiliyyah, to the extent they were going to fight each other. So my dear Muslim, do not bring up issues from the past. You see, do not bring up issues from the past. Ibn Abbas, he said about this ayah that it was the people of Badr that Allah was speaking about, and that at this time Allah removed the grudge from the people of Badr. Also Abu Sa'id al-Khidri narrated from Ibn Abbas that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, three that whoever does not have them, Allah will forgive anything else for him. The one who dies without committing shirk, and that he is not a man who makes magic, and the one who has no grudges against Muslims. So, subhanAllah. My dear Muslim, growing up in Darul Kufr, my dear Muslim, you see if you ever had, if you ever hung around with people, what we say, beef, he's got beef with that guy. You see, meaning what? Yeah, I don't like him, or this and that. You know, he's all right, but you know, I had some issues with him though in the past. But then you see the holding of the grudge. You see, and people not letting it go. The Sahaba, they were the best example of those who were free from this grudge. And there's a beautiful, subhanAllah, incident here narrated. And you can't really talk about grudge unless you mention this incident. It's narrated by Anas ibn Malik. He said that we were sitting with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, now someone will enter that is from the people of Jannah. So the Sahaba, they were all eagerly waiting to see who enters. And someone came from the Ansar with water drops of his wudu still dripping in his left hand, and in his left hand was a bandage. The next day, the Prophet ﷺ said, now there will enter a man that will enter Jannah. So the next day, again the Prophet was sitting with the Sahaba, and again he said, the man who's going to enter now is a man of Jannah, basically. And the same man, he entered again. The third day, the Prophet ﷺ, the same thing happened, and the same man entered again. And the same man entered, and this time Abdullah ibn Amr, he said, I swear by Allah, I will chase him and catch him. And he went to him and he asked him to stay with him for 3 days. So Abdullah ibn Amr, what he did, obviously he wanted to know why the Prophet said this man is a man of Jannah. You know, you see the Sahaba's mentality. So if this is a man of Jannah, I need to find out what's so special about him, because maybe I can imitate this man, maybe I can do what he's doing, so I too can become a man of Jannah. So Abdullah ibn Amr, he stayed with him for 3 days. Yeah? And just on a side point, I say minimum, if your brother needs to stay somewhere, minimum is you house him for a day and a night. Yeah? And maximum of 3 days. So even if you seeks to stay more than 3 days, then you have no obligation further beyond that. But minimum 1 day and 1 night. And even if you cannot, maybe you don't have space in your own house, the Shafi even said that to pay for him to stay at a hotel for one day, subhanAllah. That is to the extent that one of the rights of your Muslim brother, subhanAllah, over you. Obviously if you need somewhere to stay. So anyway, Abdullah ibn Amr, he stayed with this man for 3 days. And he stayed with him and he observed him. And he noticed that he did not pray Qiyamul Layl, but when Fajr came, he stood and he prayed Salatul Fajr. And then after the 3 days, Abdullah ibn Amr, he said, I did not see anything bad, but I never saw anything special. And Abdullah, he said to him, I had no problem with my father and no hijrah, but I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that a man of Jannah will come, and you always came. What do you do extra? He said, tell me. The man, he said, I do not do anything more than what you do, except that when I go to bed, I do not have in my heart any grudge or envy against the believers. SubhanAllah, every night he goes to sleep. If there's anything that happened in the day or whatever, he's let it go completely. He does not go to sleep with a single grudge against the believers. And then when Abdullah ibn Amr heard that, he said, by Allah, that is what makes you a person of Jannah. Nobody else can do that. SubhanAllah. My dear Muslim, how many of us go to sleep at night and we have not forgiven any Muslim that maybe wronged us in that day? How many of us go to sleep at night with grudges against another Muslim? And indeed, that's why Abdullah ibn Amr said, indeed, nobody else can do that. Nowadays, sometimes if your brother has done something wrong or your sister has done something wrong, subhanAllah, immediately bury it, my dear Muslim. Don't let it drag on for weeks and months, etc. Forgive for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the causes and motives behind the grudge. The Shaykh mentioned al-hirman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may test you by hirman, if I pronounced that correctly. It's like a shortness of ni'mah. Yeah? So some people do not have money, or he has money but less than someone else. This shortness of ni'mah, blessings from Allah, in comparison with others, whether in wealth, knowledge or health, skill, authority, even over his wife compared to other wives, will be a cause for the development of envy and grudges. And verily Allah is the one who tests, and he should be pleased and satisfied with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, and not to look at what other people have. And it's mentioned here, verse 88 from Surah Al-Hiqd, said, do not look to what Allah has favored others in wives and children, and do not be sad, and be kind to the believers. Yeah? So another way, one of the things you see people have built up grudges is what? Looking towards, look at the other, subhanAllah, look at the new car the neighbors have bought. Your neighbors have built this massive extension in the back of the house, subhanAllah. And the grudge is the envy and the grudge. They got so much money. This person, look how, look how many children he's got. SubhanAllah, 10 children. Oh, I've only got one. SubhanAllah, and the envy and the grudge starts building up. Even you see it sometimes, maybe someone is in business, his brother next door, his business is booming, he's doing really well, and maybe he's struggling in his own business. It starts, this grudge and envy starts building up. He's making so much money. Look at all of this stuff that he's got. Look at all the stuff Allah has given him. Rather, obviously, he should give shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua for his own brother. May Allah bless him in his business. May Allah give him barakah in his business. Also, another verse in Surah Shura, verse 27, it mentioned, if Allah gave the provision to his servant in everything, there will be corruption in the earth. Allah sends with certain quantity according to what he wished. Allah knows what will spoil them. And also I mentioned here in the Hadith Qudsi, some of my servants, nothing will correct him except to be rich. And if I make him poor, I will spoil his deen. And some of my servants, nothing will correct him except to be poor. And if I make him rich, it will spoil his deen. So, subhanAllah, you see, my dear Muslim, some people, when they become poor, maybe they start losing aspects of their deen. Maybe they start losing their salah, stop praying. Some people may be inclined towards the kufr. Poverty. Some people do stuff in desperate times in poverty. They can't have, maybe their whole life they used to be really rich, and now being poor, it's become too much fitna for them. So at the same time, being completely poor is too difficult for them. You see, and at the same time, someone, who's poor, and also gives him a lots of wealth, what happens? He ends up wasting a lot of the money. He ends up becoming arrogant. So that's why for some people, lots of money is not good for them. And for some people, being completely poor is not good for them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, He gives people according to what is best for them. So unfortunately, when he feels this shortness, he will forget Allah's blessing, and he will not be grateful, and instead he will lash out, and when he sees that someone has more than him. Another cause and motive behind the grudge, the Shaykh mentions, is injustice. Injustice in distribution of wealth or treatment may cause among those who have a weak personality a problem, especially within the family. People may develop a grudge against their brother because his parents favor him, or against the father because of his treatment of his mother. That is why a person should be firm. But Islam has the solution to this envy and grudge, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us with justice, and it's quoted here, Surah An-Nisa verse 135. O believers, establish justice even in your dealings with your relatives. And also quoted Surah 5 verse 2, do justice, it is better for your deen. And it's narrated here one incident that Bashir was a Sahabi who was going to favor one of his sons from one of his wives over the others. And his wife asked him to give an extra share of land for him. Yeah? So he had more than one wife. When one of his wives was saying to give extra share for her son, basically, for his son as well. And the Prophet ﷺ heard that, and he said, fear Allah and keep justice between your children. Yeah, fear Allah and keep justice between your children. That's why, my dear Muslims, we've got to be very careful in how we deal with our children and what things we give them. See, that's why some fathers, when they buy something for their kids, they buy the identical stuff. So that, so one child doesn't feel like, look, I've got a Super Soaker 5000, and then my father bought me a little water pistol. So don't have that imbalance. You buy both of them just if you can afford it. The Super Soaker 5000. Yeah. And sometimes people differentiate by age and give more to the elder child over the younger children. Whereas in Islam says give equal regardless of age. Yeah? But that's one point. Even if you have, your children may be different age levels, etc. Yeah? Don't have this imbalance. Still give them equal amount. Yeah? Let's say you give him pocket money. So if maybe one child is 10 years old and the other one is 6 years old, give them equal amounts of pocket money. So that, because you know what's going to happen, you give the elder one £5 and maybe give the younger one £2. You're going to think, well, he got more than me. My dad likes him more. You see, this kind of this is how sometimes the envy and the grudges can build up. Another point the Shaykh mentioned about the causes and motive behind the grudge. This is all written. It's al-khabith wal-qahr. Yeah, it's mentioned there. This is where you cannot express what you want to say. It is when somebody does not let you speak and does not let you express your view, whether by shutting you up or by insulting or swearing at you, or belittling and mocking you, even by force. And this can cause grudges against the one who prevents him from speaking, or the one who is always humiliating him whenever he speaks. This often occurs with convert Muslims from their non-Muslim family, and continues until they break and attack heavily in return. Yeah, like sometimes you see even it's one in the dawah. You're debating with another brother, and it's like, so you listen to him for 10 minutes, you let him speak, and the moment you start speaking, he keeps cutting you off. So, alhamdulillah, listen to you, let me explain. So you start, after a few seconds, he's cutting you off. So obviously you shouldn't be like that, and the person could end up developing grudge. So I listened patiently all this time, and now every time I speak, he keeps interrupting, etc. So obviously, my dear Muslim, we should learn to listen as well, the way we learn to speak. And this is what happened to Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah. His father always attacked him and attacked Islam and the Messenger, i.e., verbally. When Abu Ubaidah saw him on the battlefield and saw him fighting a Sahabi, he burst out and he shouted and he fought against his father, and he killed him. And this is the correct grudge that we should hold against the kuffar. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 3 verse 139, and do not become weak against your enemy, nor be sad. You will be superior if you are indeed believers. Obviously in the jihad, in the battlefield, to hold the grudges against the kuffar, my dear, is good. Those in the battle of Badr, when those mushrikeen, they came out, after all those years they oppressed the Muslims, and now the Muslims, they met them face to face, and they remembered all the oppression they had done towards the Muslims. This cause of the grudge has a solution in Islam, and it is shura, and is the prohibition of lashing and punishing or mocking except for a crime. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade us to mock anyone or to attack or punish any Muslim except for a crime. And it's mentioned in Surah Hujurat verse number 11, "O you believe, let not a group scoff at another group," i.e. mock and belittle another group. "It may be that the latter is better than the former. Nor let some women scoff at other women. It may be that the latter are better than the former. Nor defame one another, nor insult one another by nicknames. How bad is it to insult one's brother after having faith? And call your Muslim brother and having faith. And whosoever does not repent, then such are the wrongdoers." So obviously, my dear Muslim, especially when I'm dealing with other Muslims, we need to be obviously very careful, And some people, they built up this bad habit, belittling and mocking and laughing at other Muslims. Subhanallah. This is not obviously the character of the Muslim, to give them bad nicknames, etc. And the verse obviously we're talking about, sometimes you may be laughing at someone, maybe that person is better than you. Maybe that person is better than you. And also the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to let people speak and encourage us to make shura in order to prevent grudges. I believe this might be a hadith. There are two types of men in my ummah that will never get my intercession. An ignorant, oppressive ruler, and the other one is the one who exaggerates in the deen and comes out of it. So the point that the Sheikh is mentioning here is that obviously if you let others speak, if you're discussing and when you're debating with your Muslim brother, let them speak, inshallah, let them express their view, don't keep on interrupting them. Or that person will they'll feel like it's very rude. Whenever I try to say something, they keep on interrupting me. And also, my dear Muslim, when you're with brothers, make shura, make consultation with them, ask them for their opinion. So make them feel like they're involved. You see, so when you ask them for their opinion, they will feel like my view is considered important. Whereas if you do not ever consult them and never ask for their opinion, they may build up with this grudge that, look, he thinks I'm insignificant, I'm not important, etc. Another narration similar to this one, it mentioned there are two types of men in my ummah that will never get my intercession. An ignorant, oppressive ruler, and the other is the one who exaggerates in the deen and testifies against the people in ignorance and suppresses them. And if you judge, be just. And if you speak, speak good words. Allah likes those who speak good words. So maybe someone, he feels that, it could be like, like in the past we used to have maybe a conference where we have different speakers. Maybe one brother wasn't invited to be the speaker at the conference. So he might start thinking, well, how come all these conferences I never get invited? They never asked me to give a talk. And it might start building, maybe, they don't like me. They don't think I'm a good speaker. That's why, my dear Muslim, we should encourage, obviously, other brothers to give talks. We should encourage other brothers to come forward, etc. And one of the things, my dear Muslim, is that shaitan, he will incite the grudges. He will incite the grudges amongst the Muslims. So like, for example, maybe someone will have a conference and a brother's not invited. Shaitan will come to him and say, they didn't invite you. They don't care about you. They don't think you're a good speaker. They think that you have no knowledge. So you listen to the waswas of shaitan, think, yeah, that's right. That's right, and if you start thinking, I start building up this hatred, building up this grudge against them. And that's how the shaitan, he'll come like this, my dear Muslim. In the same in the story, if you remember, of Yusuf alayhi salam, there's a shaitan that incited that grudge amongst the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam against Yusuf. And this is how and then if you remember the story, what proceeded because of that, my dear Muslim. So be very careful of that waswas of shaitan, where he tries to incite you to hate your own brother, to hate your own sister. He tries to light the flame of that grudge, which will then start to expand in your own chest. And one of the best ways, my dear Muslim, to deal with the grudges is to forgive and forget. Is to forgive and forget, my dear Muslim. The same way you would love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you, forgive others. And when we forgive others, my dear Muslim, it's not like, okay, yeah, I forgive you. And then you're like, I don't really. And next time you do something, I want to bring it back up. No, my dear Muslim, when you forgive, my dear Muslim, I say it's as if, like I said, it's as if it's never happened. It's all buried, it's dead and buried, my dear Muslim. That's how it needs to be. And the reason why, subhanAllah, I was given this talk, I was speaking to one brother the other day. I was speaking about how some people, subhanAllah, they've been Muslim, holding them to grudges against another brother for many years. And it should not be like this, my dear Muslim. With the believers, the Muslims, they should not be holding these grudges against each other. And the danger of this grudge, my dear Muslim, is that the person who's holding it will end up harming themselves. This grudge will be like the disease that will start expanding in their own chest, and they will start consuming them, my dear Muslim. So that is why if we have this feeling of any grudge towards any Muslim, immediately, my dear Muslim, let us try our best to forgive and forget, inshallah, and overlook the faults of your brothers and sisters. And obviously, my dear Muslim, life is short. Life is short, my dear Muslim. As I mentioned, the grudge is something that will bring harm to yourself, and it will bring harm to the Islamic Brotherhood, and it will bring harm to the prevailing of Al-Islam. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure us if we have this disease in our hearts, cure us of this disease of Hiqd, of grudges, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never allow this disease to ever enter into our heart ever again, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all of us, forgive our brothers and sisters, those who we may have wronged knowingly and unknowingly, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who are merciful to the believers, inshallah, merciful to the Muslims. This is the topic of Al-Hiqd, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this from us, and inshallah allow us all to be better Muslims, inshallah, to better our characteristics, to remove all the different types of diseases of the heart, from the jealousy towards the believers, the envy, the hiqd, the hatred, everything. And obviously, my dear Muslim, you know, this is a time that we're living in, my dear Muslim, that we need unity more than we need, division. Obviously, we never need division, but when we see many people, they have envy and grudges, issues maybe going back years, my dear Muslim, let us overlook this and let us come together for the sake of Allah. Let us forgive each other and let us join hands with each other for the sake of Allah, in order to strive in the path of Allah together and make the word of Allah the highest, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for listening.